Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on live true music. Thank you for stopping by. Well, coming again today, you're very, very welcome. I trust you enjoyed my last video on Joe Walsh, of course, part of the Eagles, but also a pretty amazing solo career as well. We looked at his song, The Confessor, and I think it's a song about just staying still for long enough just to consider where we are and what we're doing. So I trust you found that one encouraging. Getting into kind of a bit of depth there with that song, but you know, that's sometimes where we go with this channel. We're going from there to 1966 in London. Now, we all know what was happening around that time. The Beatles had just gone into their recording studio part of their career, and so the world was kind of changing a little bit, particularly in the UK, in London. A supergroup, these three guys, John Bruce on bass, Ginger Baker on drums. Now, he is considered one of the first ever superstar drummers. Guy is absolutely exceptional. John and Bruce on bass as well. And what else can we say? Making up the three, John, Ginger, Eric Clapton on guitar. Now, Eric Clapton had been involved in a few bands prior to this one, including the Yardbirds. But at this point, he was the premier blues guitarist in England, and so he sort of thought, well, actually, I want to do something pretty special here. Who can I get together? So he looked for one of the best bass players and one of the best drummers going around at the time. These guys were actually geniuses. They really were, and these guys pushed the boundary of blues, of hard rock, of progressive rock. These guys were a supergroup, absolutely. They did debut in 1966. Obviously, given these three guys were already in the band, they were already going to get a pretty big following pretty quickly. And their first gig was at the Twisted Wheel Club, and they certainly got the following at that point. In fact, the following became so huge. These guys were superstars that Jimi Hendrix, when he went over to London, said, "Hey, I just want to jam with these guys. Actually, can I join in?" And they said, "Absolutely." So they had a bit of fun with that. Eric, when it came to singing, we know Eric Clapton can sing quite well, but he wasn't so sure about his singing back then. So I thought, actually, John, would you be able to be the lead singer instead? And John sort of took over the lead singing role. Absolutely. 1966, came the album Fresh Cream. And this went to number 6 in the UK and number 13 in the US. And here we've got the song The Toad. Now, The Toad is this live version of this one back in around the 1966 period. And here you can see Ginger going through his paces on drums. This guy was a freak of nature, absolutely, in the nicest of ways, of course. He really knew how to play the drums really well. When you've just got a bass, a guitar, and drums, everyone's really got to just keep things going and pick things up and just create a sound, because and you can do that when you're as good as these guys are. So we've got a live version of The Toad. 1967, out came Disraeli Gears. It was around this time that they were starting to get big in the United States, including places like New York City. In fact, they would go back to New York a few times during their career. Disraeli Gears got to number 5 in the US and in the UK. And so it was, these guys were really truly getting noticed. One of their classics, Sunshine of Your Love. I've got a live clip from 1968, and I've also got a live clip a little bit later on in I think I've got 1993 when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, I've talked about love so many times on this channel. You know, it's like most things. Love is a mystery, as we know. If we try to work out love, there's always more to love than what we think. I have always said that love is one of our most potent forces of nature. One day we're not in love, and the next day we are. We don't know how we get from one to the other, but when we're actually there, isn't it just the best thing ever? Sunshine of Love. It's quite interesting. I liken sunshine comes after night. Now, if we get a little bit philosophical here, is often what songwriting actually is. The night can be, you know, a bit of a time of our life which is like a bit dark, a bit grim, you know, not see much light going on. It's just that one of those times of life when we think we're going to get through it. All of a sudden love turns up, and it often turns up when we least expect it, doesn't we? Thinking, oh, all right, that's pretty good. And so sunshine comes into our lives because, you know, the sun is shining, the birds are singing, the sky is blue, the grass is green. And in those first stages of love, it's a pretty beautiful thing, isn't there? One of the things that love is, though, it's patient and kind. So before you say the words, you know, we don't say them straight away, just get that in there, patience and kindness. But the thing about sunshine, just thinking about this further, and that is that we need the sun to live. Sun gives the world life. And I would argue that love brings life to our souls and to our hearts. It touches us in places which we didn't even exist. And certainly after those initial stages, those honeymoon periods, we want to get into something deeper. We want to get into commitment perhaps. But easy commitment, we don't want to say, oh, hey, I'm going to be committed to you now. No, we don't want to do that. We just grow together. We grow together, we learn together, we come to appreciate each other. And when I did look at John Lee Hooker a little while ago and his song Dimples, just noticing those little things that make their partner absolutely adorable. So Sunshine of Your Love is a beautiful song, really. Well, it's not a beautiful song, it's quite heavy in typical Cream style. But, you know, the concept of these words are really gorgeous, and that is sunshine of your love. You bring life and light into my life. All we need is someone smiling at us, and it just changes our world, doesn't it? So we've got a couple of live versions of that song. In 1967, in 1968, Wheels of Fire. This went to #1 in the US, and they were at this point delving into semi-progressive rock. Of course, progressive rock has all sorts of weird time signatures, very intricate playing, and just this next level of togetherness. And so they were getting into that at that point. And another one of their classics, White Rain. We've got a live version of that one. And that's going forward to one of their reunion tours in 2005 when they actually did get back together. A couple of some shows in the Royal Albert Hall where incidentally they did finish when they finished up in 1969. And they also did do some shows over in Madison Square Garden as well in the United States. But that 2005 reunion tour, 4 shows, was sold out within the hour. So that's how well regarded Cream is. Of course, any musician at all would cite Cream as an influence. And so you got some really great, such as Paul McCartney, a few other people going to see these guys in their absolute element. Of course, in 2005, they still had it, absolutely. But going back to 1969, 1968, 69, these guys were massive. So they were doing a lot of concerts, extensive touring, and they're also pretty loud as well. And I think that did a couple of the guys' ears in a little bit. So it got to a point of just getting a bit much, and it got cold. They did announce a farewell tour, and they did 22 shows in 19 venues. A very successful tour, that one, including 2 final shows at the Royal Albert Hall. And I think I'm very fortunate, actually, because their last album, Goodbye, in 1969, we've got another one of their classics, Politician. Got a live version of that one from the Royal Albert Hall, so that's pretty cool. In 1993, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Who inducted them but ZZ Top? So we've got a drummer, a bass player, and a lead guitarist inducting a bass player, a drummer, and a lead guitarist. Pretty clever of the Rock and Roll Hall to actually do it that way. But each of the guys was able to talk about their contemporary in Cream and how influential they have been on ZZ Top of all people. So we've got a live version of that induction. So it's good to, I think, hear about the inductions for people in the industry who have been influenced by these guys. Because Cream were a massive influence in some very short 4 years of career. To be actually rock and roll, inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after 4 years is pretty amazing. And you know, to get those albums that they got, how many did we have? We had 1, 2, 3, 4 albums in that period. They were very, very busy recording, but also very, very busy performing as well. And so Cream absolutely deserved their nod into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So they've also received Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and I've also talked about the 4 albums they released, and there's been 5 live albums and a few singles in there as well. They've sold around 5 million albums, so that's a million per album, so very, very significant and successful in the scheme of things. So it's great to give credit to these guys today. I must admit, when I did Eric Clapton a little while back now, I thought, oh, well, I've done Cream now. But it's funny how things just wear on you a little bit. Think, hang on, no, there's just something more about these guys than just Eric Clapton. And we discovered certainly Ginger and John well and truly contributed to the sound of Cream. And we have one of rock's first supergroups. So, of course, it's great to give Cream a bit of a go today. So the links to those, how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me think. 2 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clips from the description below. Just checking my notes here. And I've included my last video from Joe Walsh. So if you want to recap on him, feel free. Well, if you've come back for another one, or this is your first time to Life Reflections through Music, how great to see everybody here. Well, next time we're going to continue on with the Johns. We're going to go on to John Legend. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.